rankings, and a lot unfolded in this past week, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, these last 2 weeks are always the most exciting of the season. I think there's like 11 teams that still don't know if they're in or out of the playoffs, so pretty wild.
Definitely a lot to juggle around, especially with that extra wild card spot this year. So it's going to be interesting. Interesting for sure.
All right, so before we get started, I think we could both agree on what's number 32.
Yeah, and by the way, for this power ranking, we're actually going to do a minute 30 per team, just to keep things a bit more structured. We're working on
we want people to actually watch the full video, so I'm going to try and make it shorter.
Whereas I'm sure none of our 0 subscribers will want to watch a 2-hour podcast, but maybe if we trim it down to around an hour, a higher proportion of those 0 subscribers will be interested. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Okay.
Right. So do you want me to start or do you want to go first?
Go for it.
All right, number 32, obviously, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Easy.
Okay. They are the biggest losers, but they're also a pretty big winner too because they locked up the number 1 pick. So
T-Law, Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence is all but confirmed to go there. Got destroyed by the Bears.
Yeah.
Absolutely destroyed.
41-17.
Average team at best. Yeah.
No, it's embarrassing to see what happened. They're starting Mike Glennon. This is a guy who's been bouncing around from team to team pretty much more often than I bounce around from chick to chick. So honestly, I'm pretty surprised that they even went so far as to start that guy. They started this running back, Dare Ugenbawa. Like what? I don't know what kind of name is that. Dare? It's like someone dared the Jacksonville Jaguars coach to start this guy, and I guess he fell for it. So yeah, that guy got started. The receivers, they got some talent still. DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, but they got walloped by a team which, like Amari said, is average at best. So yeah, no debate here. This is the worst team in the NFL, and they're earning Trevor Lawrence through their poor play. They've done a great job of playing as bad as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I guess whatever happened to Minshew Mania, right? Looks like it's over.
Yeah, definitely over.
I'll let you take the next team.
Yeah, I'll go for it. I'm actually gonna go with a team that had a win last week, but nevertheless is still looking pretty dim in terms of the outlook for this season. And that's the Bengals.
I agree.
Yeah. This is a team that actually won their last game against the Texans, which, again, isn't saying much since they're probably going to follow the Bengals in this list. And they started Brandon Allen, who actually looks pretty promising, although they don't really need him. They have Burrow next year. They got their guy, Samaje Perine. He used to play for the Redskins. Had a nice show. I actually made a claim for him in my fantasy league. So he definitely looks solid. Will he usurp Mixon? I don't know. We'll see. Mixon obviously has been all that. They may look to replace him after this year. But, they definitely look promising on that front. And T. Higgins, another huge game, 99 yards and a touchdown. Love to see it. But this team is where they are. They're 31st until Burrow comes back, until maybe Mixon comes back. Then they can start elevating into some serious playoff contenders because I think they got that kind of potential.
Yeah, I mean, one good thing to say is this is the first time in like 2 years they actually won a game on the road in the regular season.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, fun fact. But the Texans themselves aren't really a good team either way. Bill O'Brien kind of screwed them over.
He screwed them over big time.
Yeah, a win's a win. So, yeah, that's good without Joe Burrow. And what's next? Number 30?
We're looking at number 30 next, yeah.
So I feel like we might disagree about this one.
Okay.
I think I have to go with the Lions next.
Oh, interesting. But I dig it. I'm not totally opposed to that. The Lions are a train wreck of a franchise. So what do you have to say about them?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the 32nd ranked defense. No surprise they got absolutely destroyed by the Buccaneers, who are like a good playoff team. 47-7. I mean, like it's just not looking good for them. Like Matthew Stafford's injury. I mean, he's obviously like a very important part of their team. So,
I'm gonna take the liberty of switching them with the Bengals because they're pretty fortunate I'm even talking about them for a minute and 30 seconds because this team is an absolute joke. I don't care if you lost Matt Stafford due to injury. I saw what Tom Brady was doing to them in the first half. He was picking them apart. They could not stop.
Imagine if Tom Brady stayed in the game. Like, imagine how many TDs or yards he would have. Like,
he had the best day of any quarterback this week, and he played half a football game. That's just unheard of. 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. That's the best he's ever looked maybe in his career. And then you look at the Lions, they're overall, they've given up close to 500 points, and there's still a game to go. It's just embarrassing. They have no way whatsoever to stop any team, much less the GOAT of all quarterbacks. And Stafford being out didn't help much either. Chase Daniel could not move the ball at all. And that offense was just as much of a joke as its defense. And I'm just done talking about it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I get you don't have Matthew Stafford, but like that's not an excuse to lose by that much. They're lucky they even scored a touchdown. But, I'll let you take the next.
Gifted them that one.
Yeah, I'll let you take the next team.
Okay. Next team. There's a couple teams I could be looking at, but I liked your pick, and I'm not going to go with the Jets since they've won 2 straight games.
I wouldn't go with the Jets either, so I agree.
So really, the team I might actually be looking at is the Falcons. This is a team that is 4-11. It may be debatable since they're in every game, and they actually almost beat the Chiefs, right? But I just can't rank a team above the bottom when they blow every single opportunity on winning a football game. I don't care if they're facing the best team in football. Did you see the kick that Young Hoo Koo or whatever his name is?
The wind was not on their side that day. So
yeah,
and Koo was he's like one of probably the best kicker this year, probably.
He's a Pro Bowl. Yeah. It's such a pity because they actually managed to tame that Chiefs offense with Mahomes, who, by the way, probably just killed his MVP hopes, going 24-44. But they managed to tame that offense, and still, Matt Ryan couldn't score more than 2 touchdowns that game. I mean, yeah, I get it. He went for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's nice, but the fact is, when you get 300 yards on 27 completions, you got to score more than 2 touchdowns. You're just not capitalizing on your opportunities in the red zone, and that to me is concerning. That's the whole story of this season for them. They haven't capitalized on opportunities. They keep falling just a hair short. And that's gonna have to change next year, or they might look into trading Matt Ryan because it's not working out for them.
Yeah, I mean their tradition of choking still keeps on going, right? Like other than the missed kick, they had actually 2 chances where they could end the game. There's an interception in end zone. The guy was wide open and he dropped it. So I don't even know how he dropped that. Then obviously, Koo missed the field goal. Like the duo, like what happened? Like ever since that Super Bowl collapse, man. Like the duo of Matt Ryan and Julio Jones.
I have no idea.
Should be better than this.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, Chiefs gotta get lucky sometimes, even though, they lost that game. Anyways, next team.
Who you got? Who do you got?
No, it's hard. It's really hard to put.
I got a fun team, but I don't know. I just I don't know if I should choose them, but it seems to make sense.
You know what? I think I would have to put the Texans next, to be honest.
Texans. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's fair. That's about where they should be ranked.
Yeah. So, J.J. Watt, he said he's had enough. He said, and I quote, "If you can't come in and put work in the building, go on the practice field and work hard, do your lifts, and do what you're supposed to do, you should not be here." Right. And that was just part of a big rant he had. And, it's been difficult for J.J. Watt. Most difficult season of his 10-year career, I'd probably say. They don't really know who's going to be the next big head coach and general manager to fix this team. which Bill O'Brien just completely destroyed, right? Like
he just sunk them. He sunk their franchise. He should get arrested. Honestly, I don't know if he can charge with a crime, but he should get arrested.
Yeah, he probably should. Like, why even be part of the future in Houston? Like, who knows? Like,
yeah, this is a team that, if they hadn't made the trades they made, they could be competing for a playoff spot. They got Brandon Cooks. He went off for 104 yards. He still has some speed in the tank. They still have their elite quarterback, Deshaun Watson. He just keeps producing on these losing teams. I mean, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Are you kidding me? That's a great game. And they scored 31 points. That should be good enough. And part of the problem is J.J. Watt himself. He's had arguably his worst season. He's not the same as he was. And he actually called out T.J. Watt last year saying, how about you start talking to me when you won 3 straight Defensive Player of the Years? How about you actually do something worth mentioning, J.J. Watt? Because T.J. Watt might actually win Defensive Player of the Year this year. So I suggest he keeps his mouth shut and leads this defense to better than allowing 37 points to a Bengals team with a backup quarterback. How about that, J.J. Watt? How about that?
Yep, I agree. On to the next. I'll let you choose.
Okay. Now, this is a team that I think has solidified its position in the bottom of the league. They have nothing promising to speak of right now other than their star quarterback, and it's the Eagles. And I hate to do this because they're my team, but, man, you look at the performance they had last week. It's saddening. It's saddening to me as a lifelong fan. It's saddening to the whole fan base. It's just not fair. It's not fair to the city of Philadelphia. It's not fair to the state of Pennsylvania. But yeah, they lost to the Cowboys by 20 points. What else can you say? Their defense is supposed to be pretty solid. They gave up 37 points to a backup quarterback, Andy Dalton, who pretty much got run out of Cincinnati. They allowed 377 yards passing and 3 passing touchdowns. They allowed Ezekiel Elliott, who's been killing my fantasy team all season. They allowed him to get 105 yards on the ground. That is embarrassing. Okay? Amari Cooper, the guy who also killed me last week, 121 yards receiving, and it feels like I'm praising the Cowboys more than I'm really dogging the Eagles, but this is all the Eagles' fault because they should have held this offense to less than 37 points. They're not that good, okay? On the offensive front, Jalen Hurts, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. I get it, he's inexperienced, but this is going to have to change real soon because they need a quarterback who can lead them to some winning football games. That's all I have to say about it. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I'll say ever since Fletcher Cox exited the game, like it was just a downhill road from there.
It was over. Yeah.
They were winning in the beginning, right? They were up like, what was it, 14-7, I think, something like that. Like they're on track to win the game, right? And then Dallas, they just Philly just surrendered 500 yards and 4 touchdowns against them.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Jalen Hurts was starting off good. I don't know what happened. They only scored in the last 50 minutes of the game. But they scored 14 at the beginning of the game.
They did. Yeah.
What was it? They scored 3 points. 3 more points after that.
3 more points the rest of the game. And 0 points in the second half. So they just got shut down. It's the sad thing. Sad state of affairs in Philadelphia right now. But nevertheless, what's our next team looking like?
Oh man, all these bad teams are all kind of equally so bad. It's kind of hard to choose.
Yeah,
but next,
I got the team.
So I'd go with the Giants next.
Yes, sir. You're thinking what I'm thinking. 3 straight losses. What can you say, man?
3 straight blown out by the Ravens, who are they're on the upside, but knowing you still have a chance to win this division, you gotta do better than that. It's crazy that a 6-10 team still has a chance to make a playoffs and get a home playoff game. No team in the history of 6-10. No team in the history of this league has ever won a division with only 6 wins.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane.
No.
I believe I don't
It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
This is a defense that's allowed less points than the Seahawks this year. And I hate to say it, but I really do think the problem is Daniel Jones. This he's been given a team that should be producing more than 5 wins on the season. And it's sad because look at his day, almost less than a 50% completion percentage, 24-41. That's just not cutting it. I get it. They have no run game. Saquon Barkley's hurt. I get it. The receivers are pretty trash with Sterling Shepard leading the way. But still, you got to produce more. You have so much promise, a talented arm, good legs. It's got to be better because that defense is working its tail off to stop teams, and you're just not putting points up on the board. And it's because of his inconsistent accuracy. I just feel they need to move on from Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel, he needs to get out of his own way. Basically, like I guess the ankle and hamstring injuries, they played a big role in the Giants stinking. Like without his legs, he can't really do much. That's Daniel Jones. So.
Yeah, he's arguably a run first passer, although he has the arm to match. It just hasn't been put together this year.
All right, so who's next? It's your choice.
Next. Let's take a look. Okay, there's a team that has been quite disappointing. Really, it's between two teams for me. But ultimately, I'm actually gonna go with Broncos. They lost the Chargers, who are another pretty poor team at 6-9. Again, I feel like the quarterback is their focal point that they're gonna have to address in the offseason because Drew Lock, 24-47 with 0 touchdowns and 2 picks. That's embarrassing. He's arguably the worst starting quarterback in our league right now. It's not cutting it. This is a defense that's obviously not as good as it was during its late Peyton Manning days, but hey, you give up 19 points to the Chargers, you got to win that football game. And obviously, Drew Lock's output isn't going to do that. Melvin Gordon, he's been getting worse every year. He's pretty much at the end of that lifespan you get with running backs. He's barely getting over 4 yards a carry most weeks. This week he did it, but yeah, they're just devoid of talent on the offensive front. Jerry Jeudy, again, I said this last week, but he continues to look like a bust. 60 yards. I mean, look at what Justin Jefferson's doing, and then you look at what Judy's doing. It's sad that they chose him over all the other guys, but they're paying the price right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, what was the final score? Was 19-17, right?
19-16. Yeah, it was a close game.
Yeah, so I mean, clearly, like Drew Lock and Jerry Jeudy aren't really on the same page. Not much chemistry.
Yeah.
2 interceptions. Jerry Jeudy 5 drop passes, one of which came in the end zone, and another one for a game-winning score in the final minute. Like, it's been the most targeted receiver by the Broncos this season. Like, you can't have that.
You can't.
Many opportunities that don't translate into anything. Like,
I know. Like, part of it's Drew Lock, but part of it's his receivers, and Jeudy is the guy you'd expect least to be dropping those passes, given how high he was drafted. But alas, that is the case. Okay, next team. Oh, didn't even put them on there.
All right. It's between 2 teams for me.
Which teams?
I say, actually, no. I think I know. No. It's one team.
Really?
I think it'd have to be the Patriots right now, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
It'd have to be the Patriots.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I was thinking of putting the Jets or the Vikings, but the Jets did won. The Vikings did lose, but
and we're putting the Jets really high, but I don't know if we should be putting the Jets this high, but no, it's good. The Patriots.
Yeah, because like I know that they suck, but they're on a winning streak right now. So.
And against 2 playoff teams, no less.
Yeah, so you can't I want to put them that low, but I can't. So. Yeah. I mean, just depressing for Patriots fans. First time in a while they ever felt depressed, eh? Nice, but the Bills came and just destroyed them 38-9 and swept them for the season. It's the first time since 2000 that New England got swept by a division rival, which is crazy. Yeah, and the domination of the AFC East is like it's over for the Pats, man. Like Bill Belichick, like he's a great coach, and when it comes to picking up talent, that's where he struggles. Like Cam Newton struggled this whole year, and he got replaced by Jared Stidham later in this game, in the third quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I'm starting to wonder if he is a great coach because the last couple of weeks have been laughable. It's a real low point for the Patriots. I know I just said Drew Lock was the worst quarterback in the league previously, but I'm gonna have to change that to Cam Newton because I saw a throw in yesterday's game that was just abhorrent to me. He threw a pass on the run to a wide open receiver in the center of the field, and it was just low. He shanked it, and that just can't happen. He shouldn't be employed by the NFL. He shouldn't be employed by any team, really. Jared Stidham's not much better. I know they hyped him up a big deal during the preseason, but he's not the answer. They need another quarterback. They need more receivers. N'Keal Harry, complete bust as a first-round pick. 3 receiving yards this week. Are you kidding me? 1 reception. They just don't have the talent. Sony Michel actually looked very good. He had this one amazing run. He's a truck, but I'd say that's the only bright spot on this embarrassment of an offense right now. 38-9. It's got to get better.
See what happens next week against the Jets. You get to the next team.
Yeah. So for me, it's between the Jets and the Vikings, and I understand the Vikings have lost 3 straight games, but I got to go with the Jets here, just because they are 2-13. But they've moved up. Like what was it? Were they 30th last week? They moved up 8 spots. So it's a testament to how this team has turned around. And really, the defense has been staying solid. They've had a solid defense this season. And it continues. They gave up 20 points to the Rams last week. They gave up 16 points to the Browns this week. But really, it's the offense that's stepping up. Finally, more than 20 points a game. Finally, Sam Darnold's actually throwing for touchdowns. 2 touchdowns this week. I still think he's not the answer long term because the numbers speak for themselves. He can barely throw more touchdowns than interceptions in a season. But having said that, he has looked better recently. And I know they're trying to tank still by giving Frank Gore carries. Frank Gore's just got to retire, man, because it's sad to watch this guy run on the field. But the Jets are just feeding the ball down his throat, probably as much as any team has in 5 years because they're just desperate to get that first overall pick. But even at losing, the Jets are failing right now. And I have to say it looks good for their franchise because, there is some talent on offense, and they're showing that right now. They're showing that Jamison Crowder is an above-average receiver in this league. And, they're showing solid stuff. They've shown that Ty Johnson is a good running back. I just think that they need a few more pieces. Really, adding another solid offensive lineman in this draft, Penei Sewell, would go a long way, given that they drafted a great offensive lineman in Mekhi Becton in this year's draft. So they could really solidify that offensive line.
Yeah. I mean, they're choosing to get hot at the worst possible time. Basically all but lost Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's good that they're winning. This game, I guess it heated up the conversation of who's really the better QB between Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Put Sam Darnold in Baker Mayfield's shoes.
Wow.
Maybe the Browns would already clinch a playoff spot. Who knows?
I don't know about that, but maybe. Who knows?
People like to argue that Sam Darnold's better. So.
Yeah, I guess there's an argument to be made. I don't know if it's a good one, but there's definitely an argument to be made. Also, I don't know that there is a good time. I don't know that this is the worst time for a hot streak because I don't know that there is a good time given that the Jaguars are 1-14. There's no good time to get hot. You can't even win more than a game if you want Trevor Lawrence, but it is what it is.
At least do it when you have a chance to make the playoffs. But anyway,
yeah.
Next would be. Oh yeah, the Vikings are next. Yeah, Vikings are next.
Although I could almost give it to the Washington football team because they're a train wreck, but we'll touch on that later.
Yeah, but I would say the Vikings because at least the football team are still in first place in their division. So
yeah,
Vikings are officially eliminated. So
yeah,
thanks to the Saints who the Vikings surrendered 52 points to and 6 touchdowns of Alvin Kamara. The lone the hell out by the Saints, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the head coach, Mike Zimmer, he knows, like, yeah, this is a bad defense, and he said it's the worst one he's ever had. Yeah.
Oh, you said that?
Most, 52 points, most allowed by the Vikings since 1963. That's how it's impact, and the 583 total yards by the Saints is the most yielded to any opponent in the history of the Vikings franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly they need to focus on defense in this draft. But I'll let you speak now.
There's no doubt that they do need to focus on defense because, I mean, the offense is getting it done. Kirk Cousins has been solid. 3 touchdowns this week. Dalvin Cook, one of the best in the league, as we've said repeatedly. And they got good receivers. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, no problems there. They're set on offense. What they need is a defense because currently they don't have one. I'm surprised that 11 guys are on the field because right now I see no one the way that the Saints were running the ball down their throat. You give up Alvin Kamara 6 touchdowns? 6 touchdowns? I get it. Eric Kendricks was hurt, and they had to start that new guy, Brandon Lynch. But still, or Blake Lynch, sorry. But still, you can't give up Alvin Kamara a record-tying 6 touchdowns. It's insane. It's really insane. And it just shows their inability to make any kind of impact on the defensive end. They need to draft some defense in pretty much every round of next year's draft because it's not working out for them, despite the fact that they've been heavily injured this year.
All right. Yeah. So next, I think we both agree next is the football team.
What a train wreck, man.
I mean, news break. I don't know if it was yesterday. I think they released Dwayne Haskins. Just wild, way too immature. He was out partying with strippers or whatever. But was violating COVID protocols. I mean, they clearly not the right choice for the first round pick, right? And Haskins didn't do enough to bring back the faith for Washington. And this all plays out while they have a matchup against the Eagles, which will decide who wins the NFC East. And I don't think it's looking good for them. I think the Eagles are going to want to win that for sure after that abysmal performance against the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
The search for a new quarterback begins this offseason for them. So
Yeah. I mean, right now they've got Alex Smith, and I'm sure they're counting their lucky stars that he's going to be back next week. But I mean, Dwayne Haskins, oh my God, dude, he's a complete disaster from starting to the next day being released. It's crazy. And he's been a first round pick, and he's played on the team for 2 seasons. It's just insane that this is how it's gone for him. And honestly, he deserves it. Partying with strippers, are you serious, man? Wait till the off season. Wait till you miss the playoffs at least. This guy couldn't even wait. He was that desperate for that booty. And honestly, that's why he's in the position he's in. That's why he's a free agent right now.
That's James Harden impression.
Yeah, right. Although at least James Harden produces when he does play. He doesn't throw 2 interceptions with 0 touchdowns and a 50% completion rate when the day after he goes to see strippers. At least James Harden drops 40 on you and gets you 17 assists on opening night, right? But yeah, that's all I can say about that team is their dysfunction. Not to mention their owner and the scandals he's been caught in. So that franchise is a train wreck right now. And they should probably replace their name too. Football team, are you serious?
That's not even a name.
Yeah, that's not a football team. That's embarrassing. That's the most embarrassing part, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's why I don't like. Imagine football team winning the division. Football team. Anyway. All right, next I would say the Las Vegas Raiders are next, in my opinion.
Ooh, okay.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a solid pick. I think it's a very solid pick because I saw their game. It was one of the craziest of the year. And it was a valiant effort. If anything, it's the defense that let them down again because they just could not stop Tua Tagovailoa from making a run at the end of the game. Derek Carr did everything in his power to make something happen there. He threw that bomb to Aguilar perfectly placed, perfectly caught, and that great move at the end by Aguilar to get the touchdown. He did everything in his power with 336 yards to get them that W. But man, the defense choked again in the most unbelievable fashion. I get it. The Dolphins are emerging on offense, but you just can't allow Myles Gaskin to do that to you, to pretty much abuse you. He basically, the Oakland Raiders were his children on Thursday night, or was it Friday? Either way, he made them his children, and the Raiders deserve to lose.
Yeah, I mean, blown coverage. Like, speaking of the defense, like the play that basically won the doubles the game, blown coverage. What's his name? Fitzpatrick. A hand in his face mask somehow makes the throw that puts them in field goal range.
Crazy.
They kick the field goal, win 26 to 25.
Yeah.
Fitz magic is back, and like it's another December implosion for these silver and black guys, and John Gruden is deserving of the scrutiny heading into this offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a team that deserves to be doing better than they're doing, but it's just the coaching and the defense that's holding them back right now.
Yeah. All right, who do you think is next?
I would probably say that next is actually the Cowboys, because they are still 6-9, and there's still a lot of holes on that team, despite what I'd consider a very impressive win this week against the Eagles. 37 points on the board. That's great. You love to see it, especially a week after they put up 41 against the Niners. Their offense is firing right now, and those wide receivers are just shining through. Amari Cooper having his best season yet. CeeDee Lamb having a much more promising rookie season than Jerry Jeudy. It's looking very good for them.
CeeDee Lamb on your fantasy team?
No, actually, I have 0 shares of him, and I sort of wish I did, because I have a share of Jerry Jeudy in one of my other leagues, and you can tell how that's going. He just lost me the championship last week. But nevertheless, Ezekiel Elliott had his best game in a while, which is good, because I really have been thinking that they're going to have to move on from him. But if you can show he's still got some left in the tank, that's great. Andy Dalton doing his best impression of Dak Prescott in recent weeks. He's shown that he can still be a starter in this league, and I'm sure there's a couple other teams who could definitely use his services right now. But yeah, it's going to come down to that defense if they do make the playoffs, which, by the way, I think that they will make the playoffs, since I don't think the football team will beat the Eagles next week. But yeah, that defense is going to have to step up big time. They're going to have to rely on Jalen Smith to lead that defense, and their front is going to have to be good with Randy Gregory. Also nice to see Sean Lee coming back this year, making an impact, even if it was just in the form of 3 solo tackles last week. You love to see it. It's a great thing. I just hope they can make a splash this playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, how about them Cowboys, right? I mean,
that's for sure.
They won by 20 points against the Eagles. Could the best team in the NFC least, Andy Dalton, good insurance policy for the offseason, threw 377 yards against Philly.
That's
and yeah, their three weapons played well. I mean, they all had touchdowns, right? Michael Gallup had one, Amari Cooper had one, and wait, did CeeDee Lamb have one? I don't know if he did, but they all played good. That's what I remember.
It's a 3-headed monster down in Dallas, and they got him.
This is a team that's getting hot at the right time, I guess you could say. I mean,
oh yeah, they're smoking hot right now. The points they're putting up lately, it's
might be good enough to host a playoff game. But gotta hope that the Eagles beat the football team without a QB, right? So we'll see what happens.
That's for sure. Okay. So next team, who we got?
You want me to pick it, or you?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, let me see. So who's left? These guys here that are left.
Actually, I'm going to go to the bathroom, so just speak about your team, and I'll be back.
All right. All right, everybody. Of the teams that are left, I would have to go with the San Francisco 49ers are next. Here's why. They did beat the Cardinals, help the Bears' chances of making the playoffs. 20 to 12 win over Arizona. And, after the game, the linebacker Fred Warner said, he loves Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator. He's going to be a great head coach someday soon. He'll be able to find another job somewhere in the league. He got high praise this week, and when they reached a Super Bowl last year, and his resume is it's rising because of what he's done with the defense in 2020. Considering all the injuries the 49ers have had, they're going to be a team that's going to be hot and very anticipated to do well next year. So.
Yeah, no, their defense has been looking great, but honestly, their offense was probably as soft and moist as the urine I just deposited into my toilet right now. Yeah, no, they got some real talent on defense. Fred Warner, top linebacker in this league, 8 tackles and 6 assists. You love to see that. He's definitely the answer there. Dre Greenlaw, another big game from him. They got Kerry Hyder, a defensive lineman I actually missed out on in the waiver claim, who's emerged as their top defensive lineman in terms of pressure. He's got over 8 sacks this year, and it's really a breakout year for him. So great for him. Great defense they got going on. George Kittle's finally back. Had a big game, 92 receiving yards. So that's going to be big for their offense going forward. By going forward, I mean for Week 17, since they're definitely not going to make the playoffs. Jeff Wilson had the game of his life, 183 rushing yards. I still don't think he's going to be the answer next year, but it's worth noting they got some talent in the run game. And yeah, Brandon Ayuk, down game, but what can you do? And CJ Beathard, 3 touchdowns. That'll do when you only need 20 points to beat the Cardinals, who scored 12. Just great all-around after last week. They're going to need more of that in the future. And I'm really confident they can make a run next year.
Played a good spoiler against the Cardinals. Tried out. George Kittle said he was a Bears fan as a kid, so he's glad helping out the Bears, right? So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you didn't see that post-game interview, that's what he said. But,
I had no idea, but yeah, no, that
he was just a nice guy, man. Yeah. Anyway, next team. I feel like there's a team that I probably should have said it before the 49ers.
Oh, I might be with you on this.
Yeah, I think the Panthers, right?
Oh no. yeah.
All right, but first put the 49ers on the list. You didn't do it.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah, but what do you think then?
Panthers. Okay, no, I agree with that. I had another team in mind, but yeah, the Panthers are still 5-10, even though they beat the lowly football team. And they've been doing all this without Christian McCaffrey, so I think that's one thing they can be very optimistic about going forward. They still got Bridgewater, who's a question mark at quarterback. Luckily, this is a pretty stacked class in terms of quarterbacks, so they'll find someone, whether it be through that or a trade or free agency. Curtis Samuel, big-time game, 106 yards. He's been making a great compliment to DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. So definitely some talented receivers. The offense is really going to come together if they can just find that answer at the quarterback position. And the defense is not doing too shabby either, allowing 13 points to the Washington football team, although they were facing Dwayne Haskins. So, I mean, I don't think anyone will allow more than 13 points after the night he had with his strippers, but they're doing well on defense. Shaq Thompson's a star. Jeremy Chin probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. So, honestly, some really big talent on defense as well. Brian Burns having himself a year as a defensive lineman, been helping out my fantasy team big time. But yeah, what do you have to say about them?
I mean, what can I say? Matt rules, right? I mean, without McCaffrey, and he's unlikely to return against the Saints in Week 17, right? But
yeah, it's doubtful.
Played a good spoiler this week against the football team, kept the Cowboys' playoff chances alive, and this like Carolina's 5-10 record. It seems pretty pedestrian, right? But the team seems to be on the right track with Matt Rule. That's the matchup with the Saints next week is going to be important for Bridgewater, his former team.
Yeah. We'll see if he's the answer next week.
Yeah. Strong finale against New Orleans. High-ranked defense would give Carolina something to trust to think about the offseason, right? But I don't see it happening. But anyway.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Okay. Next team. Okay. There's a couple of ways we could go here.
Yeah.
But really, there's one team.
There's one that stands out to me.
I think we both know the answer. Yeah. It's the Miami Dolphins. Just kidding. It's the Chargers.
I was about to say.
Yeah. The Chargers, they just won against the Broncos. Great, whoop-de-doo. But they're barely staying in it with these mediocre teams in recent weeks. You look at the teams they've faced. They faced the Falcons, the Raiders, the Broncos. These are all mediocre football teams, and they're either winning by 3 points or they're losing 45-0 to the Patriots, right? And there's no in between, and that's just been the story for this season. I like to see the performance they put on the defensive end. Denzel Perryman finally back, big-time performance. Kenneth Murray, he's also making a bid for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Big game from him at the linebacker position. But on offense, Herbert, he's experiencing some growing pains. 21 of 33, only one touchdown. We're expecting better out of him on that front. And the receivers, Keenan Allen wasn't available this week, so that obviously hurt them. And that kind of takes the blame away from Herbert. But they only had Mike Williams out there as a proven receiver. Everyone else was kind of meh, kind of unproven. And Austin Eckler was he was decent, but really didn't make the kind of impact we saw from last year. So, yes, definitely some room to improve on the offensive end going forward.
Yeah, the kicker for the Chargers, I think Michael Badgley's the name. He has more kicks than anyone in football this season.
Oh, really?
And, perfect on all 4 field goal attempts on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Including the 37 go-ahead yarder in the final minute to win 19-16 over the Broncos. And, they did more than win their first straight game. They actually made history. Like, the rookie who I think is playing the best out of the rookie QB that I think is playing the best out of the ones that got drafted is Herbert.
Herbert, yeah, he's still sticking with that.
Baker Mayfield out of the record books with his 28 touchdown pass this season, most ever by a rookie quarterback.
Okay,
and Herbert might be the big star in Los Angeles very soon, so we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully we continue to see that growth from him, but it's looking good. Okay, next team. Who we got?
I'll let you choose.
Okay, so the rest of the field consists of pretty good teams overall, but there's one team that is looking particularly bad right now, and I'm gonna have to say it's the Los Angeles Rams. And I understand they're 9-6, but the last couple of weeks have been pretty ugly for them, and I'm gonna tell you why. First, they lost 23-20 to the Jets. Obviously embarrassing. And then they got blown out by the Seahawks, and Jared Goff pretty much fractured his thumb. So not an ideal situation heading into the playoffs, but this is a run-first team. So even if Goff isn't available come playoff time, I think they won't be too affected. Nevertheless, you still got to be a bit worried when you're relying on Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown heading into the playoffs, no matter who you're facing. If I'm a playoff team, the Rams are who I want to be playing. So, their defense is still being solid right now with Leonard Floyd and Troy Reeder leading the way. Also, Josh Johnson, who I'm not sure, did he make it to the Pro Bowl? I don't know, but either way, They got him. They got Aaron Donald, who had a pretty lousy week, even though he got a sack. Jalen Ramsey, same guys I mentioned last week. They're all still producing. They're all still uh, uh, repping the defense. And they did hold the Seahawks to 20 points, so you should be able to win a game like that. But I guess when Jared Goff throws 0 touchdowns, and the running game isn't there, I guess that's the type of thing you do is score 9 points. So they're definitely gonna have to be worried about their offense going to the playoffs.
Yeah, clearly their defense did enough. Their offense, not so much. 20-9, not good. Yeah, Jared Goff might not even be, like you said, might not be there next week against the Cardinals. We're in a season where the Rams were looking to be a very promising playoff team a few weeks ago. Now in danger of not even making the playoffs at all.
Oh yeah.
If the Cardinals win and the Bears win, I think then they're out. Yeah. So Goff's, he's been up and down this whole season. Been a liability for Sean McVay in the offense.
Big time liability. Yeah. He's been inconsistent for sure.
Yeah, it looks like fans might have to change their tune after watching John Wolford take snaps. The same John Wolford whose last competitive action was the Arizona Hotshots of Alliance of American Football.
Yeah, that's the kind of quarterback they're playing now.
Yeah. So good luck with the Rams. I mean,
with the receivers they have, I'm sure I'll be able to do at least almost as good as Goff, because Goff has been pretty lackluster this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next teams. Who's been
it's between two for me, but just considering who this team lost to, I gotta go with the Cleveland Browns next, I think.
Yes, sir. Agreed.
Browns. Yeah. So the Browns lost to the 1-13 Jets on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
They could have clinched, if they won the game, they could have clinched the playoff berth, right? But they failed to do it. Now, and the Ravens had a tiebreaker against them, so probably gonna take their spot.
Probably won't make the playoffs at this point.
Might not make the playoffs, Yeah, of the four 10-5 teams battling for that last spot.
Yeah,
it's not looking good for them.
The least likely statistically.
Yeah, I mean they weren't missing their top four wide receivers because of COVID-19 protocols, but I don't think that's not an excuse to lose to the Jets still.
Nothing is an excuse to lose to the Jets. There is no excuse.
Yeah, I mean now they just gotta beat the Steelers, who are, just ended their losing streak, so it's gonna be a real nail biter for the Browns.
Almost made it 4 losses in a row, but yeah, I think aside from the Rams, the Browns are the team you'd most want to face in the playoffs, because lately they haven't looked like a playoff team. Losing to the Jets by 7 points, I don't care if there's a controversial fumble at the end of the game. You can't lose to the Jets, and you certainly can't lose to them by 7 points. Baker Mayfield barely passing that 50% completion threshold, 0 touchdowns, a lot of empty stats from him. He's definitely been a question mark, even though he's been improved this season. He's definitely been a big-time question mark for them. The running game had a down game. I'm not concerned about that. They'll bounce back. Nick Chubb is a monster. He'll eat some. He's getting chubby with those yards. But, yeah, they're going to have to fix their offense. Their defense is solid. Sheldon Richardson, 10 total tackles. Where was he for me last week when he had 1 and exited with an injury? But yeah, no, this is a team that's gonna have to fix their direction going into next week, because if they lose to the Steelers, it's done for them. And to be honest, odds are they will. So good effort this season, but I think it's just about over.
All right.
Next team.
Who's number 13 for you?
Okay, number 13. There's a couple teams here that I'm looking at. But ultimately, I think that I'm going to have to go with the team that's in the NFC West and is 8-7, barely above 500. That's the Cardinals. And they just lost to the 49ers, a non-playoff team. And so that's kind of concerning to me. This is another team that I'm not that scared of if I'm a playoff team and going into the wild card round. I mean, probably less so than the Browns and the Rams, because they do have an exciting quarterback who can make plays, and they have beat some good teams like the Bills. But they're inconsistent and they're a young team, and that's to be expected when you're starting a quarterback who's as inexperienced as Kyler Murray. He had himself a bad game against a solid San Francisco defense, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick. That's going to happen. I forgive him for that. Actually, is kind of the reason I lost one of my fantasy games last week. But yeah, he just had a down game. He had a really, really bad game. 50 pass attempts, 250 yards, 1 pick. 8 rushes, 75 yards. That part was good, but he's just going to have to do better if they want to score more than 12 points against a defense that's probably going to be better than the Niners. They're just going to have to step it up. DeAndre Hopkins is going to have to do better. 8 receptions, 48 yards. It's just going to have to be it's going to have to be better overall, because lately their offense just hasn't been showing up. And their defense is there, I have no doubt, but their offense is going to really have to make some stuff happen.
Yeah, I mean, sad news. I mean, Murray suffered a leg injury in the final seconds of the game, and first possible time for that. They might need him to keep their playoff hopes alive. But I mean, the 49ers, they're a decent team. Like 20-12, like should be more competitive than that. They should be beating the 49ers in that game.
Ought to be beating them, yeah.
Now they're left on the outside looking in of the playoffs. Got lit up by C.J. Beathard. Lit up the Cardinals defense with 3 touchdowns. And Jeff Wilson Jr. He had a career high 183 yards on the ground.
Yeah,
it's got to do better on defense, right?
Even the defense was pretty tough.
Kyler Murray and Hopkins got to do better than that.
Yeah, whole team's got to do better, just all the way around. Yeah, next team. Who do we got?
Now this is really hard because a few of these teams, they all got blown out, right? But
yeah, there's a couple.
Well, not blown out. Like they all lost, not blown out. This team that I'm gonna put next got blown out. I'd say the Titans are next, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In the 12th spot.
Yeah, they're like I think I said this last week. Like they gotta learn how to win without Derrick Henry, right? And a team finally ran into a team that was able to hold Derrick Henry under 100 yards. It's pretty impressive. The Packers beat the Titans 40-14 in Lambeau. They beat the Packers at their home, and I don't know. They lost to the Packers at home, and were outgained by 448-260. And Green Bay scored touchdowns on its 3 first drives of the game.
Yeah.
Easy win for the Packers. Yeah,
yep.
And Ryan Tannehill 2 interceptions in the face of the Packers pass rush. Yeah, just ugly loss for the Titans, and they could have. Now they got to beat Houston to lock up the AFC South. And it's a tight race between the Colts and the Titans. So, we'll see.
Yeah, no, this is as bad a game as you can have if you're a Titans fan, because you look at their defense in recent weeks. They've given up 41 points to the Browns, 25 points to the Lions, who just got completely shut out by the Bucs, and 40 points to the Packers. Defense is going to be a huge problem. The offense had a down game. I'm not as concerned about them. Although you look at what Tannehill did, 11 of 24 with 2 picks, 121 yards. That's awful. That's not any kind of caliber. Derrick Henry had his worst game of the year. Still almost broke 100 yards, which just goes to show how amazing he's been. This would be an above-average day for Ezekiel Elliott. Just goes to show how he cemented himself as the league's best running back. But even for him, that's a down day. None of the receivers had big days. A.J. Brown continues to disappoint this year for both my fantasy team and Tennessee Titan fans. Corey Davis, after emerging in recent weeks, 0 receptions. That's got to hurt if you're a Titans fan. But overall, I'm confident that this offense is going to bounce back. They got a good opportunity to do so against the Texans, who have an atrocious defense. And ultimately, I'm going to be more scared to face a team like the Titans than the Colts in the playoffs, even if they lose the division. So I guess we'll just see what kind of results that yields. But overall, I'm confident in their ability to bounce back.
All right. I would say I'm confident as well. Anyway, let's see. Who do you have next?
Next, I'm going to have to go with the Colts. And just like last week, we're ranking these two division leaders neck and neck. And who knows who will win out. But the Colts, they did get themselves a loss last week, just like the Titans. And I'm concerned because the Steelers pretty much handed them this game, and they still found a way to blow it. They were leading all throughout, and then Big Ben marches his way down the field and gets himself a passing touchdown. You just can't let that happen if you're Philip Rivers. And I'm scared because we're starting to see that time of year when Philip Rivers begins to choke. It's that time of year for him, and he's going to have to really talk to his 7 kids to get him out of it, to get him out of that mental state, because I sure as hell won't be able to. But yeah, a pretty bad game from Rivers. 22 of 35, a pick, a touchdown, not great. Jonathan Taylor, after having his big coming out game, yeah, he had 2 touchdowns, but it wasn't amazing. The offense was serviceable. I'm not going to say they were bad. They were serviceable. 24 points should win you a ball game, especially against the best defense in football. But allowing 28 points to the Steelers, who have been pretty much absent for the past 3 weeks. I mean, they scored 17 points against the Bungles. They scored 17 points against the Washington football team. They scored 50 points against the Bills, and you give up 28 points. That's tough, especially since the Colts are a good defensive team. You just can't let that happen. That's very concerning if I'm a Colts fan.
Yeah, I mean, they revealed their inner Falcons this week. Blew a 17-point lead to the Steelers. Found them at the wrong time. Pittsburgh trying to end their 3-game losing streak, obviously. Now they need outside help to reach the postseason. Gotta hope. What's it called? At least one of the Steelers. No, sorry, not the Steelers. The Ravens, the Browns, the Titans, and the Dolphins. One of those 4 teams need to lose for them to get in, and they have to win out as well.
Yeah. Luckily, the Browns likely will lose, but
yeah, it's just a killer turn of events for the Colts. It looked like they were about to beat Pittsburgh before everything fell apart in the second half, and collapse on both sides of the ball. Roethlisberger up and down the field on India's defense in the final 2 quarters, and the offense, Philip Rivers and the offense succumbed to the pressure from the Steelers front 7. If they miss the playoffs, that's a big failure for the Colts. So
it's tough. It's like wherever Philip Rivers goes, he carries around this thing of choking. This nature of choking to whichever team he goes to. So I guess that's just what's going to happen this season as well.
Okay, so I think next there's another team that's 8-7.
Yes, sir. We're thinking on the same wavelength here.
So I'm surprised they're this high, but up above some 10-5 teams. But the Bears are next.
Moved up some major spots this past week.
Yeah, complete domination of the worst team in the league, the Jaguars, 41-17. And it's a Christmas miracle. They control their own destiny in the NFC playoff race after that. And that's their 3rd consecutive victory after a 6-game losing streak. It looked like their season was over. They scored 30-plus points on 4 consecutive games. First time they managed to do that since 1965, That's stunning stuff right there.
Mm-hmm.
And, their last 3 offensive explosions come against some of the worst defenses in football, though. And the Mitchell Trubisky-led Bears, obviously playoff contenders now. Or, is this 5-1 start? Is this going to be the 5-1 start? 5-1 start all over again, or are you going to find a way to, beat the Packers this Sunday and secure the playoff spot? We'll see.
Honestly, who would have thunk it? It's a Christmas miracle. Mitch Trubisky is back to being an above-average quarterback. It's an amazing thing to see because we were talking about how their offense is going to be the main question mark for this football team, and it turns out that it's actually been their greatest strength. Okay, look at the outputs they've had in the past 3 weeks against, granted, some pretty terrible defenses, but over 30 points each time. And I guess we'll see if the offense really is legit once they face an elite defense like the Packers in Week 17. But it's just looking great for the Bears right now. Mitch Trubisky, so happy for him. I wish I could give him a hug right now because he really deserves it. This offense is great. Allen Robinson having one of his best seasons. David Montgomery continues to just run the football down teams' throats, and that defense continues to be elite. Roquan Smith making his bid for Defensive Player of the Year. Probably won't win it, but he's still a very elite player. Got himself 2 nice interceptions off Mike Glennon last week. So that's his Christmas gift.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Who would be number 9, is it?
Now this is getting tough. We're looking at some really dangerous football teams from here on out.
Yeah.
This is really the point when you get into the single digits, 1 to 9, where you're going to start to get scared if you're facing this team.
You want?
Yeah, I could go and give a team, and this may be pretty controversial. I'm afraid to say it, but I'm gonna go with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's controversial at all. I was gonna put them next to.
Really? Well, I'm glad to hear that because that they basically. It's a miracle. It's a Christmas miracle that they got themselves out of losing their 4th straight game. They were about to do it, but they dug themselves out of that hole, partly thanks to the heroics of Big Ben, who actually had himself his best game in a while. 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Great game from him. Great job. The running game continues to be completely absent. James Conner is doing nothing. I'm sure they miss prime Le'Veon Bell because he's not coming back. But Juju Smith-Schuster, big time game. Great to see him have a nice game after that whole logo thing. That offense, had its best game in a while, and I'm not sure it'll continue just because of how bad they've been lately. And I also think part of the offensive output they had is due to Phillip Rivers' infectious choking on the defense. But yeah, the defense was actually kind of concerning this week, but I have no doubt they'll be back to be an elite next week. Vince Williams is back, had himself a great game. I guess good days ahead, depending on if they beat the Browns, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, Steelers at halftime they look like they're done, about to lose 4 straight.
Yeah.
And the second possession of the third quarter, Roethlisberger hit Deontay Johnson, the beautiful place deep strike TD.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that was just it was a uphill battle from there. They were able to come back. Big Ben threw for 2 more scores, and the defense returned to form in a 28-24 comeback win, and they clinched the division. Still got to work on their run game. That concerns will linger about are they a one-dimensional type offense. But their comeback this Sunday was vital. Sorry,
that bad joke.
Yeah, this was a vital comeback in terms of exercising their demons that was crept into their Steelers house, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, who do we got next? By the way, this was a huge turnaround for the Steelers. If they lost this game, I'm pretty much pegging them as finished, and I would have ranked them behind the Rams even. But yeah, big time win for them this week. Next, I would probably say, or actually no, I'm gonna let you take this one.
All right. I think we might agree on this one. I think.
All right.
It's a little fish team right there, the Miami Dolphins.
Yes, sir, we do agree. That's who I had. And this is a team that's got some really positive stuff going on. Their defense continues to be just elite. They did have their problems against the Raiders. Actually, they gave some big plays to Derek Carr and especially Nelson Aguilar, who seems to be their pet peeve. But the offense showed up. Tua Tagovailoa shows, to me at least, why I think he's better than Herbert, maybe even Burrow. He had himself a great game. And Fitzmagic, they got themselves arguably the best 1-2 quarterback duo, aside from maybe Dallas with Prescott and Dalton. But it's definitely encouraging what they got going on at quarterback, and it definitely wouldn't be possible without it. They would not be in this situation. They'd probably be out of a playoff spot and with some of the bottom-ranked teams like the Broncos who don't have a quarterback. But Myles Gaskin, amazing game. Great to see him back, even though Salvon Ahmed had a good showing last week. We all know that Myles Gaskin is the superior back. And yeah, I have no concerns about the defense. I'm sure they'll return to form, and it'll be a good test next week against the Bills to see if they are really what they say they are.
Yeah, I mean, Fitzmagic came out and replaced struggling Tua, and was able to lead the Dolphins to a comeback win, 26-25. After, like I mentioned earlier, throwing a bomb that put them in field goal range with a hand in his face. Yeah. Even considering this, Brian Flores was still going to choose to stick with his rookie QB next week against the Bills. So I think that we got a good quarterback dynamic going on here. Like whenever Tua is struggling, Fitzpatrick could just come in there and bail him out. So you could make a strong case that Fitzpatrick should be the starter next week. But we'll just have to trust in Brian Flores and see if he made the right move this week.
Absolutely. I do think they should start Tua next week, but especially since I think he's got to be their starter for the playoffs, but we'll see. I mean, too, they've been winning a lot more games with Tua than they have with Fitzpatrick, but, I guess I'm not the head coach. We'll leave that to Brian Flores.
Yeah.
Yeah, next team.
All right, 11. Up to you.
Tough. These 7 teams all have some really great momentum going on right now, but ultimately, I'm going to have to say the Seahawks.
Oh.
Really? You didn't have them? Okay.
I don't agree with that, but go ahead.
Well, I'm going to tell you why. I actually think they got a great thing going on right now. But what I'm most concerned about, and this may come as a bit of a shock, is Russell Wilson. He had himself a phenomenal first half of the year. He was actually the runaway favorite for MVP through like 6 to 8 games. But lately, I'm starting to question if he's even an elite quarterback. He's got, 225 yards last week and a touchdown and 0 picks. Granted, against an elite defense in LA, but still, when you look at the production in recent weeks, I'm expecting a lot better from a guy who's been paid like he's a top 3 quarterback. And the running game, Chris Carson, he's been holding the fort as an average running back. I get it. They're not really relying on him. They're relying on Russell Wilson. But still, I'd like to see a bit more from him. DK Metcalf had himself some huge games early on, but has slowed down a lot. But nevertheless, the receivers, I have no doubt, him and Tyler Lockett, they're gonna definitely hold the fort and be the elite receivers. We all know they are. I guess it comes down to the defense as well, because they've done very well lately. They've allowed 27 points in the past 3 weeks, which is almost half of what the Lions allowed against Brady and a half. So, that just goes to show that their defense is turning it around at the best time possible. I'm just really worried about Russell Wilson, but let's hear what you have to say.
I mean, I don't know that Russell Wilson argument. Like, you could arguably say a similar thing about Mahomes, right? Like, they're only barely beating these teams by 1 score, like few points. But I mean, I put them around. 6-5-ish is good, but they had a good win against the Rams this week. They've allowed a league low 13.7 points per game in the week since week 10, and after their win against the Rams, the Jamal Adams, big cigar in his hand. He claims the Seahawks have the best defensive football.
Wow,
that's a bit debatable, but the Hawks are definitely shifting in the right direction, and entering the playoffs, dangerous team entering the playoffs. I think Russell Wilson is,
I don't know if he has the kind of
late for the MVP conversation, but I think he's gonna have a resurgence in the playoffs. We'll see.
Yeah, honestly, like if he gets back to even part of that form that he showed with the defense playing the way it has, I don't think there's a team in football that can beat this team. And they've showed in recent weeks, but they're going to be really scary to face if Russell Wilson figures it out. Maybe he will. I don't know, but I guess that's something we'll have to wait and see on.
All right. So the next team, which is, I think I get switch the Seahawks with this team, or like the Seahawks on this team are connected now.
Yeah, I'll see.
It's the Buccaneers.
Oh my god.
Wait, no.
Oh
Wait,
my
no.
god.
Not the Buccaneers. The Ravens, sorry. The Ravens.
Okay, still not the team I had in mind, but man, the Bucks I was gonna move on huge, but okay, sure, the Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens are next.
We can switch.
The Ravens down there.
Yeah, I'd say the Seahawks are better.
I'd say the Seahawks are above them. But so the Ravens, scorching hot, 27-13 win over the Giants. Combined with the loss of the Browns and the Colts, the Ravens are now in control of their own playoff destiny. It's crazy. They were, 6-5 a few weeks ago, and now they're in their driver's seat. They became, in the 4-game winning streak they had, they became the 4th team in the Super Bowl era to score 140 plus points and gain 900 plus rushing yards in a 4-game span.
Mm-hmm.
And they beat their opponents by an average of 15.5 points. And they're looking like the same team that won 14-2 last year now.
They are. Yeah.
Getting back to their old selves.
Oh, it's so hard to rank them 7th.
Yeah, I don't think
so many teams this year. I honestly, there's a team I'd rank behind both these teams, but continue.
Yeah, I don't think any team in the AFC want to face this team right now in the playoffs. They're on the way up right now.
Yep. No, I completely agree with what you said. This looks exactly like the team that went 14-2 last year. They've just fixed it. Whatever was going wrong, they fixed it. I have no doubt that they're going to be a huge problem for the Bills, the Chiefs, whoever they face. I think I could see them coming out of the AFC. The way the Seahawks and the Ravens are playing right now, I could see them meeting in the Super Bowl. But, I mean, it all comes down to Lamar Jackson. That defense, it's going to be great regardless. They got the best cornerback in football. They got Patrick Queen, who's just doing a great job as a rookie. But it's going to come down to Lamar Jackson. And the way he's been playing lately, with 2 touchdowns, no picks, and 80 rushing yards against the Giants, this is vintage Lamar Jackson. This is exactly what we saw from him last year. And I just really hope he can carry that momentum into the playoffs, whoever they face. Because when he's like this, nobody can stop him. And I mean nobody, not even the Titans.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully we can both agree on who's next, but I don't know.
If you say the Bucks, please don't say the Bucks.
How is it not the Bucks?
No, man, I gotta say the Saints. I gotta say the Saints. I understand that they beat the Bucks both times. I get that, but just
the 6 touchdowns, really.
I know, but look at what the Bucks did last week.
But the Saints also blew out a team, so
I know they blew out a team, but I wouldn't even consider what the Bucks did blowing out a team. I'd consider that a historic performance. No one can beat the Bucks the way they're playing. It's insane.
Kamara had a historic performance too, man. I don't know.
You know what? Okay, whose performance was better, Brady's or Kamara? 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks in 1 half, or 150 rushing yards.
Only one other person in NFL history had 6. He could have broke the record. He could have 7 months.
Brady would have broke the record if he played more than 24 minutes of football.
I don't know, man. Okay, I mean.
No, but I'll give it to you. I'll go the Bucks at 5.
If you put the Bucks and the Saints against each other, who do you think would win, man?
Right now, I think the Bucks. I'm very confident in that.
Even after they got blown out the first time and even worse the second time?
They're pretty much identical right now in point differential. The Bucks have 1 less point than the Saints on the season, and they've allowed 2 less points than the Saints. So they're pretty much identical. I just think it's the momentum right now. The Bucks have won 3 straight games. They're coming off their best performance of the season. Maybe any team's best performance of the season. And I just think it's really special what's going on They're clicking on all cylinders. They got the complete offense involved. I mean, just what they did last week, it blew me away. It made me want to rank them number one, to be quite honest with you. But I guess I don't want to get too crazy because Christmas is over. And I guess I just don't want to get too excited right now. So I'll rank the Bucks at 5. I'll do it.
I mean, to be honest, like it was against the Lions, who the defense isn't that good, but I mean, either way, still an incredible performance by the GOAT Tom Brady, 47-7 win, and Tom Brady only played to the half or 3/4 of that game, and
yeah, just a half.
The Bucks set a franchise record with 34 points in the first 2 quarters against Detroit, and they clinched their playoff position. And now this all shows that the Brady experiment of leaving the Patriots has been a success. And now the question is how far can Tom Brady really take this unpredictable team in the playoffs, right? Because they've had their ups and lows. So what type of Bucks team are we going to see? Are we going to see the team that beat the Lions or the team that won against the Saints a few weeks ago? Like that's a big question.
I'll agree with you on that for sure. Yeah, that's the biggest question mark because they don't always show up. They showed up last week, and to say they showed up would be an understatement, but they don't always show up. So that's my question. Which version of them will we see? I'm pretty confident we'll see this one because, I mean, just the more time they have together, the better they get. This is a new team, a new group of guys. But yeah, after I was watching the game with my dad, after the game ended, I asked my dad if Tom Brady can be my dad. So that's how impressed I was with his performance. Mike Evans had his patented huge game of the season, almost 200 yards, just killed it. All the receivers were firing. He even worked to get Antonio Brown involved so that he wouldn't cause any off-the-field issues due to his lack of production. He got his first touchdown of the year. Gronk, 2 touchdowns. He's shown that his resurgence is for real. Godwin, obviously an elite receiver, showed it again. They didn't have Ronald Jones this week. Didn't matter. Keyshawn Vaughn, a rookie, went off this week, 62 yards on 15 carries. I loved what I saw from him. Whole offense was firing. They were facing Chase Daniel, so the defense allowing 7 points. That's right in line with what I'd expect from them. And I guess maybe I'm overreacting because they were facing the Lions. But I'm just so high on this team. I just love all the talent they have. I just think they have it in bunches. I think they're better than the Saints. I think they would smoke the Saints. And I'm just a huge Brady fan. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, this is our first big disagreement, man. I don't know. Like, you think they would smoke the Saints? But everyone's been saying that, right? And
they've been saying that.
They got blown out twice, so I don't know.
I guess, it hasn't happened, but I just think the way they're playing, if they played the way they played yesterday, I have no doubt in my mind that they would crush the Saints, especially given that the Saints quarterback situation is kind of shaky right now. But yeah.
I don't know. I feel like obviously the next team is the Saints, so we're already talking about them now, so those will rank the number 4. But yeah, I feel like Drew Brees I think he's recovering from his injury well. I think we're gonna get vintage Drew Brees to come back.
You think so?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I believe that.
Oh wow.
Drew Brees when healthy, he has championship level explosiveness. But the big star of the show this week has to be Alvin Kamara. He could have went for 7 touchdowns in the game, which would have been an NFL record.
Yeah,
but instead,
what from him?
They decided to give Taysom Hill 1, and he has 6.
Yeah, Sean Payton gave the ball to his son.
Only other player to have 6, running back to have 6 touchdowns in a game was Ernie Nevers back in 19, however long ago. And the Saints won 52-33, clinched their 4th consecutive NFC South title.
Mm-hmm.
And Kamara has really been, I'd say Kamara has been the star of the Saints this season. 21 touchdowns and nearly 1,700 yards of scrimmage in the New Orleans Saints offense. And I think like this was even without all the weapons. Like Michael Thomas didn't play this game. Like imagine if they had Michael Thomas, what would happen? So I feel like Kamara Kamara is like enough to be the Bucks in my opinion, and even if you add Michael Thomas to that,
Really? Wow.
really
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Um.
If they
Yeah.
play like this, it'll be close. It'll be close, but I
Yeah.
think the
If
Vikings are better than the Lions.
yeah. That's true. The Vikings are better than the Lions. But the Saints still only beat them by 19 points. Uh, but still, I gotta say, what Drew Brees is doing this year reminds me of Peyton Manning in his last year with the Broncos, where the defense just carried them to a championship. And I think that's gonna be what has to happen this year. Although the difference is not only is their defense gonna carry them, but they also happen to have a guy who scored 6 rushing touchdowns this past week in Alvin Kamara. So it's gonna be the whole team carrying Drew Brees since he's been a liability. He had 2 picks, 0 touchdowns last week. I understand it's kind of deceiving since he still had 300 yards on just 26 passes, but I don't think he's the same quarterback. You look at his career trajectory, it's just been going down ever since 2 years ago. He's fallen off a cliff right now. He's not the same guy he was, and they're going to have to carry him. They're going to have to carry his ass all the way to the Super Bowl if they want to get there, because I don't think he's going to have it in him, even if you put Michael Thomas back in the mix. They got all the talent in the world. They're just gonna have to focus on running the ball down defenses' throats and stopping them on the other end, which by the way they didn't do this week against the Vikings, since the Vikings scored 33 points. They're looking good, but they're giving up a lot of points lately. 32 against the Chiefs, 33 against the Vikings. They gave up 24 points against the Eagles 3 weeks ago. So the defense is looking very shaky right now. They're going to have to improve that if they want any kind of shot to win the title this year.
Yeah, I guess I would agree with that, but
Yeah.
we'll have to see what happens in the playoffs. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
So these top 3 teams,
same as last.
They could all be interchangeable. Like it's really close, in my opinion.
All had big games. Actually, 2 of them did. But...
but next for me, I mean, maybe there's a little bias here because I am a Bills fan, but I'm saying the Packers are next.
Oh,
number 3.
Oh my God, that's my number 1.
That's your number 1.
They won 5 straight.
Wait, actually, you know what? No,
the Titans. They killed the Titans 40 to 4.
No. Listen, they're not number 3. I don't care that they're the defending champs, right? The Chiefs are number 3. No, listen. After that performance this week, it's a week-to-week list, right?
Okay, yeah.
That was not a good performance. For this week, that was not good. They should have lost that game.
It was bad.
They were lucky to win that game against the Falcons.
I can't put them against I wouldn't put them above the Bills though. 14-1, 12-3. They beat the Bills.
They destroyed the former dynasty though. Completely destroyed them.
I know. I can understand though. This isn't outlandish because they did barely beat the Falcons. They've been barely beating teams lately, so I can understand. So I'll agree with that.
Yeah, I think for this week specifically, they have to be number 3.
Yeah.
17-4, for a team that's everyone is saying oh, they're unbeatable, nobody can beat them, and they're only beating teams by 1 score, 6 or 3 points.
Yeah, not good enough. Yeah, that's true.
You got to blow out a team like the Falcons. The Falcons aren't that good.
Kill them.
Yeah. And they had to get saved by Younghoe Koo, who was a really good kicker to win this game. So.
Yeah. No, it was Mahomes' worst game of the year. I think it was deceiving because if Mahomes had a great game, they've been beating teams barely, but they've also been facing some really good teams like the Saints, the Bucks, and the Dolphins. Their schedule hasn't been easy. Even the Raiders are pretty solid. But yeah, they barely beat the Panthers. They should have killed them. They beat the Broncos by 6. They probably should have won by more. So it seems like Mahomes is actually not performing well when he is facing these bad defenses. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just a coincidence. But yeah, he had a bad game this week. 24-44, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. He basically took himself out of the MVP race. He handed it to Aaron Rodgers on a silver platter, which I guess isn't his main concern right now. But his main concern is going to have to be killing the Chargers next week because they need that momentum going into the playoffs. But yeah, even the run game, and this is the reason they can't blow out teams is because of the run game. That didn't produce. Le'Veon Bell past his prime. Damian Williams also not really doing what he's supposed to do. They have
Damian Williams opted out.
Who?
He opted out of the season.
Wait, who opted out of the season?
Damian Williams, the running back, right?
Oh, this is Darrell Williams.
Darrell.
Wow. Okay. Regardless, he probably couldn't have got done either, even if he hadn't opted out. Yeah, they don't have any talent at running back. Even when Clyde Edwards-Helaire was playing, he wasn't performing up to expectations. Without him, the running game's a complete joke, and they showed it this week when they just couldn't run the ball at all. They had to rely on Mahomes, who's having an off week, and that's why you want a run game, so that when your quarterback's having an off week, you can run the ball. You can rely on the run game to keep the defense honest. They can't do that. Their defenses look pretty good as usual, but really, they're going to have to focus on allowing less points to the good teams, because when they face the good teams, they are allowing a lot of points. They gave up 31 points to the Raiders. They gave up 29 points against the Saints, 27 against the Dolphins. That's a lot of points against some pretty good teams. So they're going to have to work on allowing less points to the good teams and scoring more points against the bad teams. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like we gotta discuss like where we're ranking the teams before we film these. To be honest, when it gets to the top 5 or 10, like disagreements. But
top 10, some disagreements for sure, and I think there might be one for the next one too.
Yeah, like I know you said you want the Packers number 1, but I don't know, man. Like
the Bills number 1, but for me, the Packers just made us.
It's close. It's close between them two. You can't lie. It's close.
It's close between the three of them, honestly.
Yeah,
but
just for this week specifically,
I don't think anyone had a week in the Packers, but I think the Packers I think the Bucs had the best week, but I think the Packers facing the 10-5 Titans, beating them by 26 points, is better than the Bills, who beat the 6-9 Patriots by 29 points. But
so by that logic, how do you think the Bucs had the best week then?
I guess they faced a bad team, so that's a bit biased. But the Packers did face the best team, and they beat them by about the same margin that the Bills beat the Patriots. But they both won 5 straight games. They're both very similar teams. They both are among the best offenses in the league. Their defenses are both good. They're both pretty flawless teams. So I don't know. They're nearly identical. But
let's just say 1B for the Packers, 1A for the Bills.
Let's do it. I'm down for that for sure. For the Packers, they had probably their best game of the season. Aaron Rodgers locked in that MVP with a trademark sort of game. 4 touchdowns on 25 pass attempts. He didn't need to throw more than 25 because they just demolished the Titans. A.J. Dillon and his monstrous thighs, which are beautiful to look at. By the way, I don't want to get too much into that because that's kind of weird, actually. But 124 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. He showed he's a capable starting running back for them when they can't rely on Aaron Jones. So he's looking amazing. Davante Adams, killing it this year, 17 receiving touchdowns. He's showing why he's the best receiver in the league. So great stuff from him. Offense just looks completely dynamic. They're killing it on all fronts against what was a pretty bad defense, but still. And they allowed 14 points to one of the best offenses in the NFL. So their defense is looking even better than their offense. They can't be stopped. They cannot be stopped. Christian Kirksey got himself a pick. Darnell Savage also got himself a pick, both against an above-average quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. And they just look unstoppable right now. I'd be scared to face them if I was any team.
Yeah, I mean, the duo of Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, cosmic connection. No other QB wide receiver combo can touch it.
Yep.
Close second is probably Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, but we'll talk about that later.
Mahomes and Travis Kelce.
Yeah, Mahomes and Travis Kelce for sure, or Tyreek Hill even. But Davante Adams, he could even be considered. He should be in the MVP conversation too. With those 17 touchdown catches. But obviously Rodgers is, he's in the lead. It's probably the best receiver Rodgers has ever had. And
Yeah,
only the
Jordan.
third player in NFL history to
Yeah.
have those 17 touchdowns as well as 100 receptions.
Yeah.
And it's even more remarkable when you consider that in 2 full weeks, Adams was on the shelf with a hamstring injury. So, a big resurgence this week from
17
this Packers
touchdowns,
team.
minus 2 games. It's insane.
Yeah. And last but not least, certainly not least, Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo Bills.
Josh Allen, who also had, I'm pretty sure, 4 touchdown passes this week. With the 38-9 win over the helpless Patriots. Yeah, the same franchise that was a punching bag against New England for the previous 2 decades. And they got their revenge this week. Another dominant performance by Allen. Who should also be in the MVP conversation behind Mahomes and
He's right.
Rodgers.
Third, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
if you don't see that, then you're not recognizing the magic that's brewing in Buffalo right now.
It's in pure magic, yeah. I just something about these 3 teams is just crazy. It's like these 3 teams are separated from the rest of the pack. You look at the top 3 MVP candidates. Guess who it is? It's Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, and Josh Allen on those 3 teams. You look at the top 3 receivers in the league. Who are they? Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, and Tyreek Hill. I mean, these 3 teams have the 3 best offenses. They all have great defenses. I don't know how to interchange them. It's just going to be fascinating to see what goes on in the playoffs, especially for the Bills, because they beat the Steelers, who are undefeated. They zapped them of their momentum and sent them spiraling down. They beat the Broncos by 29 points, and they beat the Patriots by 29 points. 2 straight, nearly 30-point victories. They look unstoppable right now. Josh Allen looks like the best quarterback in football right now.
Sheer dominance.
It's insane. And if they can make a statement against the Dolphins in Week 17, then you know what? I will agree with your number 1 spot for them next week. And I'm really excited to see what they can do in that season finale.
Yep. Well, that does it for the Week 17 Power Rankings.
Yep.
Thank you to anyone who finds this video for watching. And we'll see you next week. I guess I think next week we should just do the playoff teams, like playoff team power rankings.
Yeah,
because there's no point in everything else. And yeah, we'll take it from there. So
yeah, can make some playoff predictions too. Should be fun.
Yep. Exciting video coming up. All right.
Okay, I'll see you.
Watching. Catch you next time.